Hi, have you ever noticed in the game Lord of the Rings Online, there are a whole lot of ruins scattered about everywhere? Maybe you give it a look and think about how it looked before it was destroyed. Or maybe you don't even give it a second glance, as you are too busy leveling up your character. But today, I'm going to be looking around the map of each area in Eriador from the Shadows of Angmar release of the game, and simply look and explore and theorize what each area would have looked like before it became a ruin or abandoned. Because to me, I want to know deep down, does this place feel real? Did it have a real structure to its layout? Or is it just simply a video game ruin? I would also like to state, I don't have a degree in archaeology or history, but it is a passing interest to me. Anyway, I hope I come off as interesting or knowledgeable, or this could be a video where I talk absolute nonsense, who knows. I think we shall start with Ered Luin, an area named the Blue Mountains, where both the dwarves delve and the elves dwell. In the elven area of Falathalorn, west of the havens of Celendum, there is a place located up the hill named Fam Galer. The old ruins fell during a war with the goblins a long time ago. Though the date of such attacks are not found or dated, it still lingers on the minds of the elves who lived in that place a long time ago. Though it could be that the attack took place 600 years ago, when Skorgrim Dourhand attacked the elven refuge of Edhelion, when he seeked the ability to become immortal from possible elven relics. Fam Galer was once a place of beauty, but time has worn it away. Looking down the hill, the River Luin, it's no eyesore. In the elf ruins deed log, it is described as so. In the days when Fam Galer stood whole, it was a place of celebration and ceremony. For the elves of Ered Luin, now it is a wretched ruin, a shattered memory of better days. The ruins in their state had two high towers. One has seen better days, crumbled at the middle point of its foundations. It is possible it was brought down by siege engines, for the stone itself looks like it has taken some force, while the second tower is missing a big chunk from its foundation. The main building has two entrances that still hold its foundation together, though it is highly probable there was a third entrance that opened up to a garden area in the back, but after 600 years, only trees now stand there and the crumbled up ruins of the former building. The roof itself still shows the elegant curves a lot of the elven buildings have. The front of the building has a felled statue of an elven hero of an ancient time. This would have been a courtyard where the elves would gather at night under the stars and look upon the River Luin below. The building itself was much larger, for the walls lead outwards, closer to the hill. Where the crumbled tower stands, the wall and possible door would have led down the hill. The ruins themselves still show its original flooring. Though worn away with time, the stone flooring has the evidence of grass growing through it after 600 years. There is no evidence of any stairs that would lead to another level, but the destruction was clearly heavy on the structure. But it would make sense. It did have a second floor. My thoughts on the matter is that the stairs were on the outer part of the building. From analysing the area, it had 5 rooms, though the destruction makes it hard to tell from the entrance. It opened up to a large room that had a staircase to the right, and a door leading inwards to the ground floor. The door to the inner part of Fam Galer would then open to the right with a large corridor, which would be built to a square, and then open to the outer courtyard. Now it leads me to Dol Ring West. The area is fascinating, for it has 7 entrances, with 2 large open halls, and a corridor that connects both halls together. In the deed log it is described as so. Dol Ring West was once a place of great beauty, home to many elves. Now it is a decayed and broken ruin. A part of me believes this ruin was a great feasting hall, for scattered about were 3 ovens or possible fireplaces, for it was definitely a place of gathering and peace. I think both Dol Ringwest and Fam Galer shared 2 different jobs, one for gathering and a place of peace and reflection, while Dol Ringwest was the great feasting halls of the people of Linden before they were destroyed. The only things that do not make sense to me is one of the halls has 2 giant rocks just sitting about the floor, which makes no sense. You could argue the elves built around it to let it become part of the house, but I think that it just doesn't feel realistic. The Vale of Reftareg is very curious, for it stands as an example of the long war between the dwarves and the goblins. To the west, there is a ruined dwarven building. It was clearly a small fort used to guard the road, to guard the way for the elves to travel safely to the Grey Havens. However, it was equally used as a bastion for the dwarf soldiers to fight the goblins of the mountains. This small fort has fallen to hard times. The goblins darken its surroundings. The walls that surround it are crumbled and broken, as if trolls or siege engines broke them apart. There is no evidence of any doors that lead inside to any structure, but with the broken wall, it might have had a door that led to the upper wall. Likely though, there were ladders that led up to the wall and the towers for the defence of the archers. In the open courtyard of the fort, it was clear it had tents, just as the goblins themselves have tents in the inner perimeter. Further to the south is the southern barricade. In the deed log it is described as so. The southern barricade guards the way to the Grey Havens to the southwest. It was sealed off by the dwarves some years ago as the goblins swarmed out to overrun Raftareg, and now lies abandoned and impassable, making the trek of the elves travelling to the havens a long and arduous journey, as they must use the passes far to the south. The area has an archway gate ahead of the road, and many pillars that mark out the road. I feel this was used to make the elves passing through the area feel safer in their travels towards the Grey Havens, during a time when the relationship between the elves and the dwarves was far better. Above the gate is a platform that overlooks the area, which was probably used for the dwarves to look out across the vale in the case of goblin invasions, so archers could fire on sight. By the looks of things, the platform had a building attached to it, but it is now crumbled and broken. It might be clear the way to get to the platform was from a door that led into the gate, and was then dug into the ground, and a staircase that would lead to the upper building. In the location of the Puddyfoot Fields, east of Budgeford, are the Bridgefield Walls, a very beautiful landscape ruin. In the surrounding zone are the broken makings of a square-walled zone. Closer to the Brandywine River is a circled tower surrounded by a ring of pillars. In the deed log, it is described as so. Bridgefield's Wall is one of the few remaining signs of the ancient kingdom of Arnor within the bounds of the Shire. Farmer Puddyfoot has been threatening to pull it down for years now to build walls for his own fields, but some of the richer hobbit families of Mickle Delving have prevented him from doing so in the Shire's councils, demanding that the wall is preserved for historical purposes, so it stands there still. Remember, this is a reminder that it's important to preserve and protect history, for if we were to tear things down that explore our past, we would be left with nothing to remember or learn. A wall might be a wall to someone, but to someone else it holds memories. Anyway, south of the Bridgefield's Wall is a broken bridge. which could have connected the two sides of the river together for the men of Arnor. Broken to pieces, it is possible it would have had a large bridge in its prime, but now there is only one side of it that remains. What I also find fascinating are the metal bars beneath the bridge that still help control the water flow that would feed into the Brandywine River. North and south of the Bridgefield's wall are towers. The one to the north was thrown down, and in its place a lone tree grows. But from across the Brandywine River, in Breland, is another tower. In the deed log for the stock tower to the south of the Bridgefield's wall, it is described as so. The stock tower is a curious old Anorian ruin, standing guard near the Brandywine Bridge. Few such ruins still stand in the Shire, having long ago been dismantled by industrious hobbits to construct more modern residences. But the stock tower has become something of an icon, and mischievous hobbit children have been known to frequent the ruin despite their parents' admonishments to the contrary. Though the stock tower's sister tower across the Brandywine River no longer exists, it is clear that, as the deed log states, it was torn down to help create the Brandy Hall in Buckland. It might be possible these towers were created for defensive purposes, but it is likely it was also created to watch the river, to help guide ships, planting beacons on top to help the ships move to and from Evendim to the other provinces of the world before they would reach the sea. Though there is no evidence of living areas inside the Bridgefield wall, for it was torn apart, the land is misshapen from time, and now a large wolf den now exists there. But it is clear from the misshapen earth, if it was to be dug up, it would have been clear that a town existed here, and they would have used the bridge to travel to and from their locations. The ruins of Ost Barandor are a very unique area, and it's probably one of my favourite areas in the game. It's a strange place, because there are only two quests that lead you into the Brandy Hills. One to collect a backpack, and another to kill a giant who is living in the hills. But once you are there, you see this great and open area, full of trees and hills, with a beautiful small lake that feeds a river and runs into the Brandywine. Now within the scenic area itself are all these ruins that surround Ost Barandor, and I believe that this was a small city. Whoever the lord or lady was of this area had an idea of ostentatiousness when it comes to the great fortress itself of Ost Barandor. Let's try and get a clear view of the area. Ost Barandor can be seen from any distance in the lands of Bree. Honestly, it is hard to miss, but from the outside the fort is nestled high on a cliff, and on top of a hill. It is surrounded by high broken walls. After over 1,200 years, the ground is raised, and mounds hide the evidence of what was beneath it. In nature, and after long periods of time, soil can raise from deposits of weather and leaves. For example, Roman history is hidden by 12 feet of dirt, and that is over 2,000 years of weather, nature, all combining the land to raise up. So it might be beneath the dirt is stone pathing that would connect the outer city down the hill to the fort of Ost Barandor. The stairs are cracked and broken at points, but you can tell the land has raised up, hiding how far the stairs actually went down to meet the ground. Inside the main fort, great empty windows now stand in each direction. I believe great Anorian stained glass windows used to bring colourful light inside the fort. With its high positioning, I imagine the light of the sun brought calming light into the main building. From the looks of things, there were probably 3 levels to the fort. The main hall, which stretches high up, would have been grand to anyone to see, used for feasts and passing of laws. However, the game's design hides any evidence of where any stairs might have been. Though an oversight from the developers, it is a shame, because the area itself would look better with more detailing. However, it could be possible the stairs and the floors above were destroyed by the Witch King's invasion. So it is likely the stairs were made of wood, leading into the second floor. But again, that doesn't make sense. I think the ruins of Ost Barandor are amazing to look at. It could be that there was only one floor, and it was a giant hall. But to me, the large pillars, structures are missing doorways that would lead to a spiral staircase to the other floors. But let's say maybe there was only one floor to save time, and it was just a huge hall that extended upwards, with the great Anorian symbols that extend to the ceiling. South of the Forsaken Inn are the very large ruins of Minas Eriol. Hidden away inside the cliffs of the area, this area holds the scars of battle. Under the shadow of Amansul, this must have been a large town with a big connection of bridges connecting each area together. The main stronghold is Ost Durgon, is isolated on its own cliffside island again, connected by a bridge, a lot of the keep's features still remaining. In the Lowlands Defense Deed Log, it is stated as so. Once the primary keep of Minas Eriol, proud knights of the Kingdom of Arnor once issued forth from the gates of Ost Durgon into the hills and plains below. But even after 1,600 years, the keep has been affected by the weather, for the stone flooring is now covered by dirt and soil build-up. We can also tell the weather and the changing of the landscape has affected the keep, for where a broken wall now stands, it has now fallen over from the years have gone by, and naturally the weather and the changing of the soil has shifted the earth beneath the wall, so it has fallen over. Again, many feet of dirt has really changed the landscape's look, so a lot of history is buried underneath the earth. As I was talking about in Ost Barandor, how I found it odd there was no stairs that would go to the upper levels, well, I can see that Ost Durgon there are broken stone stairs that would have headed to an upper floor of the keep. I can see that this is true from the angle of the broken stairs would have gone much higher. We can also see that there are many tall broken pillars, that there was an additional floor that would have went up, and these pillars were used to hold the foundations of the keep up. The only problem there is that there is no evidence of the collapsed roofing or rubble, but again after 1,600 years it would make sense it was buried under many layers of soil and dirt and sand. We also see the evidence of a broken seating area, so it is possible this room was a waiting area or even a library. I can imagine a knight taking a break from their training and delving into a book of lore or a short story. Now exploring the outer area of Minas Eriol, we can see a broken wall which once would have housed a gate for the knights to muster forth from. We can also see the trodden muddy earth lies before us to show a great number of goblins and wargs have passed this way, but it also helps us see the physical evidence of where the knights of Arnor would have ridden forth on their horses to battle. If we go further into the deep trenches of Minas Eriol, I believe these were the places where the knights housed their horses. We can also see evidence of a great storeroom where the horses' feed and straw and riding equipment would have been stored. Least likely it would have not been a stables itself, because of the stairs. So I believe it was used to hold the feed stores and the equipment. Ahead of the storage area is the Tower of Barad Eichant. In the deed log it is written as so. The Tower of Barad Eichant is the symbolic centre of the stronghold of Minas Eriol. Once it rose high above the valleys below and caught the first rays of sunlight as it slanted in over the surrounding mountains. In the upper level is the crossroads bridge that connects all the areas of Minas Eriol together. Beneath the bridges are 4 doors that could have been used as a stables or shelter for the horses that were housed there. There are large piles of rubble scattered about, and it could be these were used as the outer stables for the horses, though after so much time, so much evidence is buried underneath the earth. What I always find interesting is how looking at the structures that have been left behind would have been much larger and impressive, but time and the war with the Witch King has stolen what was a beautiful place. But finally, before we move on, looking at these crumbled stairs and broken bridge shows signs of a landslide caused by the weather, as the stairs that used to occupy the area are broken and shifted aside and buried in parts of the cliff faces. So from an archaeological standpoint, this land has shifted and moved from the time and weather erosion. Now, I would feel like a fool if I did not pick the most important place of all. Like out of all the places in the North Downs, this place stands out as the most important ruin in all of the places in the war between Arnor and Angmar. I am of course talking about Fornost. It's probably one of the most amazing and historical ruins in the game, for it stands out as a place of great pain, where the final nail in the coffin to the kingdom of Arnor, and also the final end of Angmar's reign over Eriador. From the outside of the great city, you can see the Norbury Gate. In the deed log it is described as so. This was once the main entrance into the king's city of Fornost Arain. The gates were laid to ruin and rebuilt by the Witch King of Angmar when he seized the city for himself. Still standing tall in its former glory, the high walls still tower over the fields of Fornost. Its towers are cracked and broken in parts from the aggression of siege warfare. Though the gate in question no longer exists, it must have been mighty tall in its prime. Each gate still houses the insignia of the King of Fornost, a great star on top, and smaller stars spread across each gate's curves. Entering the city, we can see more evidence of the siege's effects upon the great defensive towers that have crumbled from the heavy force impact. Ahead is another gateway, and to the left a broken wall. My theory is the Witch King could not break through the second gate, so using a gamble and to save time, the Witch King sent forth sappers with explosives to break the wall so it would crumble away. Ahead of the broken wall is what remains of a possible barracks that would have housed guards and soldiers of the city. The inside of the barracks is broken and crumbled, and the ground only has a few faded stones from the days where its past glories shined. From evidence, trebuchets probably broke apart the upper wall and broke apart the barracks, while from the front, trolls smashed apart the gate that housed the guards. Further ahead from the barracks, we still have outlines of the houses that existed, each wall crumbled away from time, now housing orcs of the Blogmol clan. The great estates now lie in ruin, and the ground flooring is now covered in 1,300 years worth of dirt and soil and weather buildup. A great example of this is northwest, where a marsh has developed. It could be because of this location being downhill. So after all the years of neglect and time, water runoff from the rain has flowed down the incline into this flat surface area of the ruins. The great wall that was here was broken apart by siege engines, as if there was some great need to break through here. I believe this was the city's sewage or water area, so it could be why there is a great amount of dirty, marshy water here, but likely it is because of it being a flat area in a location surrounded by steep inclines. The water fountains are the only things left in the city that have not been touched by the war, but they stand still from time and likely corroded pipes that fed these fountains. Close at hand to the fountains is something that feels funny to me, because it's part of the city that feels unrealistic. And it's this single file stairway, like you've got this grand opening courtyard to the bridge leading to the city centre, but you've got this single file stairway. I don't know why it feels ridiculous and funny to me. Like, you would think the stairs would match the length of the gateway, Maybe you could argue it was designed for defensive purposes in case enemies broke into the courtyard, but it's the only way to get to the city centre, past the bridge. I guess it would make siege equipment nigh impossible to get to the city centre, not without going left and right, but it also makes sense why there are so many broken walls to the left and right of the city. I think it was a war of attrition on the Witch King by slowing down the attackers, so the Witch King had to flank around, taking a lot more time to attack the city. This would be a problem because separating his forces would weaken his focus on attacking many places, but attacking one area at a time would leave his flanks open to attack. Whatever happened, it must have made the siege go on longer than expected. But Fornost is the perfect ruin, for it holds a lot of its shape from the war with the Witch King, so homesteads still hold the outline of their walls from better days. We now turn to the ruins of Ost Durgon, where the kingdom of Rudar once stood. During the war with the Witch King, Rudar was the first area to fall to the Witch King, but it was done with guile and hillman uprisings and civil wars. In the deed log for the Troll Shores, Ost Durgon is described like so. Ost Durgon was constructed by the ancient kingdom of Arnor to stand guard over the main crossing into the Troll Shores, and thus deny it to the invaders from the east. However, the great threat proved to be from the north, and this fortress fell into misuse, an eventual ruin as the wars raged elsewhere. This ruin still holds some might over the trees of the Troll Shores. A high broken tower looms over the area. What I like the most is the evidence of upper floors that are now missing and broken, is the fallen stairs that lies heavy in the mud. It's things like this that catch my eye. For someone who just sees a ruin as a ruin, I see something more. I see time and the process of where the upper stairs used to exist. One of the main halls of Ost Durgon still holds part of its shape, with a arched doorway which would lead from one room to another. A stairway leading up to another floor still exists, and we can also see the evidence of where the floor met the other side of the room, with a cracked side of a column. From the shape of this room, it was a rectangular room. For the first floor, we also have the evidence of foundation supports from these small walls that would have held the floors up. Of course, after 1,600 years, there are so many trees growing in the ruins, and the soil and dirt covers about 10 to 12 feet worth of detailed flooring and rubble beneath it. So we are fortunate to see scattered ruins about the area. However, there are a few errors scattered about. Here where two doorways would stand, it faces the wrong way, and is covered by a single wall, probably an oversight of the developers. So I don't know if anyone would notice, but from examination, it's something you would pass by and not give a second thought about. So I don't know if anyone would notice, but without an examination, it's something you would pass by and not give a second thought about. One of the broken towers shows evidence of an interior area from the outside, with the crumbled up doorway to show it was used as a high tower to watch over the land. Though the fortress has no sense of realistic defences, for it has no outer wall that circles around the area, or evidence of where the gate existed, for the walls do not connect well to one another. Just like how a jigsaw puzzle should connect, Ost Durgon does not. Finally, I will be ending my video with Evendim. I was going to add the Misty Mountains and Angmar and Forakel, but those locations have no ruins to analyse. They are more areas that have places that have been abandoned, and Evendim's ruins has a lot of evidence of time wearing away the location structures, for it was Evendim that was left abandoned because of its importance to the people of Arnor as the heart of its people, but also as the numbers of its peoples waned living there. They left it and moved its people to Fornost to maintain a stronger foothold against the war with the Witch King. The best ruins in Evendim would have to be Tinadir and Tal Runen, and now only realising the pun on words with it. So Tinadir is fascinating because we have the large keep that has not been touched by time, like a lot of the large buildings in Evendim. But Tinadir had a very large outer house or hall that lies in ruins. But what I love about it is the outer walls still hold a great shape, and because of the time that has passed by, the hall's walls are misshapen. The ground inside the perimeter is raised and mound-like from the build-up of over 1,200 years of sand build-up. One of the main walls gives us evidence of how high the ceiling reached up, with the elegant curve of the beam that would have stretched across the building. It is nice seeing things like this. We also have a main entrance to the hall still standing, as well as a smaller back door probably used by the servants of that place. It could also be this hall was much larger and spread out across Tinadir from the broken columns next to the stables, so it might have had additional rooms or living quarters. But because of the time that has gone by, it has shifted the walls off centre. Finally ending with Tal Runen, this very beautiful and isolated and creatively named island is home to many salamanders. But in the centre of the island are the ruins of Tolabel. In the ruins of Evendim Deedlog, it is described as so, isolated by the lake from most of the other estates and ruins in Evendim. Few scholars are certain of the nature of the ruins that lie there today. The foremost theories suggest that it may have once been either a prison or a vault used by the rulers of Anuminas. This at least would explain the general secrecy and rare mention of the place in the histories of the region. Alas, there is little solid evidence to support these ideas, save for a series of unusually deep and extensive cellars within the crumbling ruins. If there were vaults here, they have long ago been picked over for any valuables they might have contained. We can see from the ruins it still maintains some shape of its structure from the high ceiling beams that extend across from one side to another, though not meeting as years of corrosion from the weather. We can also see it was much larger and wider from the ruined columns. One of the doorway entrances to the keep still holds an arched shape, showing us just how high the walls reached up before time and nature took over. From higher up, only two of the main buildings still exist after all this time, so it is likely Tolabel had many living quarters and all libraries attached to it. But from questing, we know the salamander eggs were kept on the island as a piece of evidence for scholars to study and learn, but from the fires of the creatures, it destroyed any historical texts and evidence that would have been housed there for the safety of the realm. We can also see from following the broken path out of the ruins, there was likely a dock where ships would anchor up, looking towards the keep of Tinadir. So before we end, Tolabel had an outer wall that stretched far across the buildings and living quarters in one side of the area, which, while another part had a large wall that reached and towered across the library. It could be that this area was a super secret area, only accessible to the higher nobility or the king, or maybe, as it was described, as a possible prison to keep out the worst of Arnor, locked on an island so they could harm no one. Though, if it was a library, why would it need such high outer walls, especially for a place that is isolated from the world on an island? It could be that it was a prison, or a secret vault of forbidden knowledge and artifacts. From the salamanders on the island, I think it was the latter. Anyway, that will be the end of the video. It was an interesting one to make, and I hope you enjoyed watching. If people ask, I might make more videos like this from the other areas in the game. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe for more videos in the future. Until then, this is the Rising Fawn, take care, and good night.